Welcome to This Week in Habsland. I'm Jordan, he's Brian, and we are coming to you after the Canadiens drop a rather disappointing Game 4 to the Washington Capitals, 5-2, but don't let anyone fool you by the scoreline. It was a one-goal game yet again. Caps now up 3-1 going back home to Washington, making the series outlook for the Canadiens pretty bleak, Brian. I kind of want to start this episode by talking about, it's something I brought up after Game 2 about the mixture between how much do we focus on the future versus how much are we focusing on the right now? Because the future, we can point right to Power Play 1 and what was going on with that today, and we can all get very excited about it. But I think, Brian, we probably should start up with the right now, because at the end of the day, the Canadiens are very much contending for winning a playoff series. It's not participation awards they're getting right now. They're in the playoffs or not. I think Marty said that when the series started, right? Like, you don't make the playoffs and get a participation ribbon. They're here to compete. They're here to win a series. What did you see from Game 4 and what transpired tonight?
A good first period where neither team, I think, was ready to make a mistake. And that, I think the way that things were going, where guys were avoiding the extra little stuff, kind of ended. And then as soon as that ended, the referees jumped in. And the Canadiens were absolutely incredible on the special teams. They almost beat Washington and the referees. That's how I'm sort of looking at this game. The stuff at 5-on-5, less good. Obviously, two of the Montreal Canadiens goals. Oh, wait, they only had the two. Those two goals came on the power play. And so they couldn't really do anything at 5-on-5, even produce a lot of shots. The shots ended 26-18. So neither team really produced a lot of shots. And whenever the game was tied, it seems like neither team was willing to make a mistake. So yeah, there was a lack of risk taking. And so it stayed close for a very, very long time. And then as soon as that wasn't the case, it kind of got away from the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, what I noticed a lot, actually, thanks for bringing up the first period. With these playoff games, the first period feels like 3 weeks ago every time we do this recording, even though it was 2.5 hours. The first period had a lot of Game 1, Period 1 vibes, and I don't literally mean the series. I just mean the general, it's a feeling out process. What are you going to do? What am I going to do? I don't want to make a mistake. You don't want to make a mistake. And I really think that was kind of Washington almost resetting the tone to an extent. I think this game is the best they've looked all series by a mile. 64% expected goal percentage at 5-on-5. Like you said, the Habs won the special teams battle, and I think that's an important piece to keep in mind moving into Game 5. What's interesting about the shot tally is if you go game by game, the Capitals, they had 21 shots in Game 3, and they only went up to 26 in Game 4. Defensively speaking, it seemed like an okay job by the Canadiens. They had some screw-ups, and we're going to get to Dobish, of course. It's the offense that had 40 shots in Game 3 and dropped down to that 18 number, and quite a few of those, at least 5 or 6 of those were on the power play. So really, it was the Capitals kind of they certainly played a better defensive game and really forced the Canadiens to the outsides. And the Canadiens really do this is a pattern that they got into in the last month or two of the season where they really look for the good shot, not any shot. And this was one of those games where, what do they have? 6 shots through 25, almost 30 minutes before they scored their first goal of the game on the power play. I think it really says more this game about how much better Washington was specifically in their own zone at 5-on-5 than anything the Canadiens did today. One team just elevated to another level, which should happen when you're the 1 seed.
Yeah.
And the other team kind of stayed at the same level, and no individual performance was enough to buoy the Canadiens into a victory.
That's absolutely right. And the only line that seemed to be able to even produce chances at 5-on-5 consistently was, you guessed it, the first line. They were awesome. And the first line, especially when Hudson and Guhle were with them, which again, that also makes sense. Demidov tried his best to do some individual, he did 3 or 4, either through the leg dekes or head fakes or pump fakes, or just to get around a guy to produce an opportunity. But you're right, he can't do it alone. The setup that he had on the Slaf goal, just it is all the young guys. That made me think about the future. So you asked before, is it about the present or about the future? It's both, and the future part is absolutely astounding. The 6 best players for the Canadiens tonight were the first line, add Demidov, add Hudson and Guhle. And the other thing I wanted to bring up was something that you brought up on the last episode, which was about Xhekaj and Savard possibly getting just picked apart. And it seemed as though they were preyed upon just as much, but they didn't do a bad job. I think Savard ended as a even. Like nothing went in on him, and Jack-Eye was a -1. And when you compare that to the main players like Gooley, Hudson, who based on the eye test I thought had a very good game, they just happened to be on the ice for a lot of the goals against, including some empty netters, so that skews things as well. We have to note that. But I thought that I went into this game thinking Jack-Eye and Savard, that's really going to be the Achilles heel here, and it just wasn't. You're absolutely right that the Capitals in general at 5-on-5 just outplayed the Montreal Canadiens, and they did it in a really subtle and simple way, clogging up the neutral zone, blocking them, denying entries, and then being just very, very physical. It wasn't just like the Anderson for the Canadiens, the Andersons and the Heinemans who were forechecking hard. It was most of the Capitals forwards. So it's hard to compete with that. It's just really hard to compete with that as a young team, especially.
Yeah, I mean, young teams struggle with consistency. That's not groundbreaking. I'm not, this isn't new research I'm finding right here. It's just young teams struggle with being consistent. And I thought the first line was good. I think maybe how we're reflecting on them is a little bit more like we're baking in some power play stuff in there, which fair enough. Like the power play was dynamite tonight after, a little bit of wobbling there. But I think a lot of people are going to focus on the refereeing this game, which I thought I don't know. Like I'm so exhausted by this topic already. I mean, already we're more than halfway through this series one way or another. And did you want to talk at all about the Ovechkin stuff or the hit on Carrier that essentially knocked him out of the game by Wilson? I'll say I thought that was a clean hit. It sucks. It sucks that it knocked a guy who was having a pretty good series, if not a great series, out of the game and potentially out for the rest of the series. I thought that was a fine hit. Ovechkin has been reckless the entire series and a good chunk of his career, but he gets away with it because he's Alex Ovechkin.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway from it. Like they called a bunch of interference. I think we're recording this before St. Louis goes to the media. There's a non-zero chance he finally whips out I'm upset about all this crappy officiating stuff, but I don't think that was the difference today, personally. Like you mentioned, right? Like the Canadiens won the special teams battle fair and square. Like when it was 5-on-4 or the 5-on-3 especially, like they played great. And then on the power play one, which I kind of want to park the young guy stuff for a few more minutes.
Sure. Yeah.
Like they were awesome at special teams. Any thoughts there or anything you want to mention about whether the Carrier stuff, which just in general, losing him would kind of suck, and the Ovechkin stuff or Wilson or whatever?
I mean, I could just sort of sum it up by saying that the obvious bias is driving me nuts.
Right.
And when there's numerous, the Gooley interference, very soft. The Jack-Eye interference on Alexeyev, very soft. The high stick that didn't even hit him. I didn't even want to do this, Jordan. I didn't want to talk about the refs again. It's so exhausting, but they're just coming to me I'm remembering the plays on the ice and I'm getting angry again.
That's fine. What I'm finding the most frustrating is game 1 and 2 compared to game 3 and 4 is a completely different series from how it's been officiated.
Yeah.
You could still make the argument that the the Capitals are getting the benefit of the doubt in both versions of this series. Whereas in game 1 and game 2, I think the Canadiens had 4 total power play opportunities. The Capitals had 3. And then games 3 and game 4, I haven't kept track, but I think the Canadiens had somewhere around 8 or 9 power play opportunities total. That to me is wild. These teams then suddenly become 3 times more likely to take penalties overnight when they stepped into the Bell Center. That is what I find the most frustrating. And you can clearly tell, the players have no idea what's going to get called at this point. And my fault for bringing this up. It is unfortunately part of the story.
Yeah, 100%, man. It's almost dominating the narrative if you look on the socials. So we have to address it in some way. It's just a drag. It sucks when that becomes the topic of conversation. I've said this before. Any game of hockey that people talk about, I don't even mean podcasting, just people. If the first thing that's brought up is, wow, the referees were trash, that's a sad state of affairs for hockey. That's all I'll say. And the standard not staying the same, I had said after games 1 and 2, the line had been set in the sand.
Yeah.
And like everybody knew what to expect now. And if they had kept that going, whether it was good or not, whether it made sense that cross checks to the face were not getting called and other stuff that was weaker, had they at least just kept that standard, everybody would have been on the sort of same plane. And it's obvious that it's not. So now as we go back to Washington, I'll throw it to you. What do you think the refs are going to do? Is it going to be like Montreal reffing? Is it going to be like Washington reffing? Is it still going to be biased? You're putting your
Literally no one knows.
Yeah,
no one has any freaking clue what the Canadiens could have 0 power plays in Game 5, and I could be like, that tracks. Fully believe you. Yeah, they can fully go back to calling it like they did in Game 1 and Game 2, and therein lies the hypocrisy of all of this. Again, whether it's a fair whistle, point is the whistle itself changed, and that must be just exhausting for the players to not know from game to game. I really do think the Caps are going with the they can't call everything strategy.
Yeah, they absolutely got away with it tonight because they...
it's everywhere.
I mean, then again, they called everything on the Montreal Canadiens. So that's why I said the word bias, Jordan. They're employing that strategy of, okay, well, they're not going to call this, whereas the Montreal Canadiens can't employ that at all. They call every little thing. So
yeah, I don't want to harp on this for too long.
No, I agree with you. This is
the Capitals were the better team.
They were. Yeah, they were.
However, it was 2-1 Montreal going into the third, and a better, more experienced team closes it out. I do want to talk about kind of the last power play opportunity they had, and then we can start transitioning into maybe the more positive stuff. But before we get to that, Jakub Dobeš, essentially his playoff debut. He's not supposed to be in this position in any capacity. He is not even a rookie. He was supposed to spend the entire year as the starter in Laval and get great reps here. He was not expected to start essentially a must-win game in the playoffs at home. Having said that, I thought he was average at best, a couple nice saves here or there. Truly, especially a few on the power play. But man, did he look nervous with the puck in terms of being able to not even control it off of rebounds, but just freeze it sometimes.
Right.
And I also thought the last goal on Mangiapane, I'm not putting anything on Dvorak on that one. That's just a shot you got to stop. And so I feel bad criticizing because Jakub Dobeš is not supposed to be a Game 4 starter at this point in his career, but it happened. So it's too bad. If Monty's in net, they probably, I don't know, maybe they win tonight.
Yeah, perhaps I was just impressed by some of the really clutch saves that he had made, like coming across the crease to rob a cross crease pass one-timer, which was just sick. He did that with the blocker, and he had a nice pad save down low too in a similar fashion. So I was impressed by those. So I didn't think he had that bad a game. I agree with you. Maybe he should have had the Mangiapane shot. I mean, it was a laser through a screen. It was still from only the top of the circles, so that one maybe is 50-50. I wasn't upset that he had let that one in. The second goal was kind of a goofy bounce in freak show thing after the hit, and everybody was kind of all over the place. Which actually, for 2 seconds, I want to return to that. Wilson was very smart not taking, not addressing Anderson. Anderson went after him, and Wilson wouldn't answer the bell, and it ended up being the right call. I wish he had answered the bell. Man.
So going into Game 5, look, the Canadiens played Oliver Kapanen in a little less than 5 minutes. Carrier at this point, man, between the knee and what is likely a neck injury. It can't be a concussion because the spotter didn't take him out, but who the heck knows? With multiple injuries, let's just say, picked up in one game. I think his status is completely up in the air, which means Struble might be drawn back in. I was having thoughts about if he had been healthy this season, this is the David Reinbacher call, but you're not doing that in an elimination game in Game 5.
No.
Because this is the thing about the Canadiens' defensive structure. It's only taken me 86 games to figure this out. So, you're welcome. The way they like to play, they are super cool. There's so many extended sequences of the Canadiens in the defensive zone, but they almost look content with it to an extent. And that's because their hybrid structure essentially says, if you have the puck above the face-off dots, so from the points-ish, or at the edges, on the half walls, outside of the face-off dots, we don't really care because we don't think you're going to do much from there. Now, unfortunately, the Canadiens have, especially Samuel Montembeault, have given up a lot of long-range goals this year, but typically speaking, that is a sound strategy. The issue with that and letting teams have the puck 20, 30 seconds and cycling in kind of useless areas is they don't have the bodies, specifically the defensemen, on the team that once the puck makes it into that little home plate area to break up the play. And I was just thinking today, I'm like, well, there's one guy that if he's healthy next year or next season, he's going to be great at adding to that. So that's where I was having the Reinbacher stuff even before Carrier got hurt. I'm just like, that's what happens with this defense. They're very okay. Like you keep the puck 45 feet away from the net at the point, or just like aimlessly going up the left half wall when there's no way, there's like such a low percentage chance you can score from there. They're going to have to learn to be a little bit more aggressive and selective with that. And that's part of the hybrid system of once they go man to man, once they go above that spot. But overall, like the reason no one's scared of the Canadiens is because you can still have someone go into that essentially a bumper role, but it's not really a power play, right? And not be scared about Mike Matheson or not be scared about Jaden Struble or Arbor Jacki. Like there's only one guy. It's Gouli. Gouli is the only guy that will break up those plays consistently. And Gouli is a monster today. Yeah. I know the numbers are going to probably disagree. And I'm sure he ended up like a -3 or a -4 because of the empty netters. But like he was just cracking guys today and playing a really good hockey game. Yeah, I don't know. I forget how I got to that point, but I just wanted to bring it up. Like,
I'm glad you did. Yeah, we are lacking those Shea Webbers.
Yeah.
Shea Weber was great physically, and he was also great at recognizing the danger in front of the net and just being a juggernaut there. And Caden Gouli's turning into that. He's not quite there yet, but he was awesome. You're absolutely right. He just lacks experience. And then you could go through the other defensemen here. Mike Matheson is, I think, too offensive-minded, and he takes risks. And Carrier I actually thought was very good. He might be the other guy you can throw in here, but he's small. He's not going to be physically imposing. Mm-hmm. Hudson has trouble with it. Savard, judgment-wise, he has it like anybody in the NHL. He just doesn't have the speed anymore. So that's the only thing. Yeah. And then Jacki and Struble, both inexperienced and not that type of guy, I don't think. So you're really right to point that out, man. Reinbacher will help that next year. The experience being gained by Gouli, and maybe Struble, Jacki will help next year. But for the time being, it's tough.
Yeah.
For the time being, it's very, very tough.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we can shift, like, in terms of what can they do in Game 4, I don't know how many moves are left.
Game 5, yeah.
Game 5. I definitely don't want to relive Game 4. Not that they have many options, really, in terms of what they can do from a strategic standpoint. You lose your starting goalie, you're probably potentially losing your number 4 defenseman. Also on Matheson quickly, like, Matheson, Savard, dynamos on the PK once again.
Yes.
People are going to always find ways to crap on them. I saw people complaining about Matheson on the second goal. Like, for many reasons on this podcast, I have refused to bag on Mike Matheson. His play on the penalty kill today, when A, Alex Carrier is injured, B, Arbor Jacki's on the bench, or in the penalty box. Yeah. Lane Hudson's never taken a penalty kill shift. He's playing the full 2 minutes multiple times in the playoff game. I have no notes, nothing bad to say about Mike Matheson. I don't know if they have any moves, Brian. Is there anything like strategically, can they change the way they're playing? Or are you really just hoping for like 2 days off, great third line, something magical from Demidov, and hope to God that Dobesh is better?
I hate to say it, but I am in that hoping mindset right now, rather than thinking like this is the way to go here, which is crazy considering that an hour and a half ago during the second period, even though things were going bad, the Canadiens were still up. I felt completely differently about that. So it's amazing how 20 minutes of hockey can alter your perception so strongly. But no, there's nothing left to be done here, especially if Carrier goes down, which would be a humongous blow. That means 2 of the guys that we've been saying have been targeted as the third pairing. One of them would be going up to the second pairing.
Yeah.
And that's the scariest part of all this, is that your third pairing remains very exploitable and your second pairing just gets that much more exploitable. On the PK, the one adjustment I could see them potentially making, not likely, but the PK worked because of how aggressive they were and tenacious. If they altered their defensive system slightly just to up the aggressiveness, maybe that would nip some of those plays in the bud. But Washington is a very high-skilled offensive team, those top 2 lines especially, and if you give them an opening because you've pinched to be aggressive, they're going to hurt you down low, and they already have been. So, like, that's why I said it's not very likely. That's the only thing that I could possibly think of.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really see too many different ways. Like, you can still win. Like, these 2 teams can come play on Wednesday, and the Canadiens are just 10% better, and the Caps aren't getting all the good bounces, which, let's be honest, they got a lot of good bounces today.
Yep. That's true too.
and the Canadiens can win the game. They were up 2-1 several minutes into the third period and very close to having this series evened up. They could have won game one. Like, I think the Capitals have been the better team in 3 of the 4 games, but a 2-2 series would have been completely justified in my mind. Yeah. So let's do it quickly here. I feel like sometimes I might be too negative on these big game losses. I put this post on Blue Sky, and I fully stand by it. Arbor Jacki right now is learning how to leverage his toughness without stepping over the line. Caden Gooley is learning how to blanket coverage power forwards in big situations. Ovechkin, I don't know what's going on. Very quiet. And I can tell you who he's going up against mostly. Ivan Demidov is learning how to deal with speed and physicality of the NHL using his skill. And we're going to get to the goal. Don't worry. And of course, Juraj Slafkovksy is converting on huge moments with his shot, which is something we scream at him all season. Shoot the puck more. You have a wicked shot. He's doing it. He has 2 goals in 4 games. So let's not lose for the forest for the trees. I make sure we talk about the micro in these games because this is game 4 of a playoff series. We cannot always be like, oh, but next year is going to be great. No, exactly. We talk about now.
Yeah.
But now at the end of the podcast, we can say, like, man, this is amazing. Seeing Jacki, there was that shift where he just destroys Lars Eller. And then there's a little bousculade, a little something after the whistle. And he clocked it, And he was like, I'm not doing any bit more.
Yeah, exactly.
Time to get off the ice. All the Caps are chirping him as he goes to the bench. And I'm like, like golf clap. Well done. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. Physical on the ice. See where the line is. Don't step over. You're in everyone's heads.
Yep.
Perfect. Well done, Arbor Jacki. He screwed up earlier in the game, but we'll let it go. He had some nice offensive zone shifts, some nice breakups here and there. Like, I was happy, but he's learning, hey, I can do this, and then I have to stop, and I'm already in their heads, right? And it goes down the list. Is it other guys? I mean, you can talk about Jacki, but like Demidov, Slav, Gooley, like there's so many like bright spots still, regardless, to focus on tonight.
100%, and it's such a valuable experience. Whether this goes 5 or 7 this series, and whether they win or lose, the value. If you put this up against, I don't know how many regular season games you would have to put this up against to match the I don't know, the magnitude of the lessons being learned or the importance of these games and how the players feel as they're going through it and managing those emotions, both while you're on the ice and off of it and preparing for games. And like the lessons in here for such a young team, the youngest team ever, I'll say it again, to get into the playoffs, that can't be ignored. So yeah, heck yeah, let's talk about the future now, because after a game like that was rough and maybe they could have won it, and a couple games ago, same story, they maybe could have, down 3-1, that's a really difficult hole to climb out of. Teams have done it, need we say who the victims of that were? I mean, I'll put it this way. I would rather be playing the Maple Leafs right now than the Capitals, based on the history of giving up 3-1 series leads. I don't foresee that against Ottawa, though, to take a sidebar.
Well, I mean, God bless Ottawa for winning that game, finally winning an overtime game. Yeah, shout out to the 2004 Boston Bruins, the 2021 Toronto Maple Leafs. Never to be forgotten. So the power play goals. Let's talk about that, and then we can probably start wrapping, because that is a bit of a microcosm of like
the future. Here we go.
The future. It's a Cole Caulfield goal. It's a Juraj Slafkovsky goal. They're both assisted by Ivan Demidov and Lane Hudson, with Suzuki. Phenomenal zone entry on the second goal.
Yes.
For Nick Suzuki, which I find they often struggle with. But that first one, first of all, it's Caulfield brings the puck in, and then a quick pass to Slafkovsky. He's slowly become the guy that the first pass once they gain the zone. And then Demidov gets the puck.
Yes.
And I jumped off my couch.
Yeah.
Like, he's not supposed to be able to do this in game 4 of a playoff second period, down a goal. And then he finds Slafkovsky, and Slav is not wasting time, and he gets that shot on net, and they score. Crazy stuff. Love it.
Yeah, I liked both zone entries. The Suzuki one and the Caulfield and Slav one were both just very simple, elegant entries with no dipsy doodles. Didn't need to do anything fancy. Just got in and made a play right away. Yeah, that Demidov move was absolutely sick, going behind the net and spotting Slav there. And Slav was shouting and smacking his stick on the ice. He wanted that puck, that's the best possible thing to see from Juraj Slafkovsky, is wanting the puck that bad. We see it from Hudson at the point, smacking his stick on the ice all the time. Suzuki once in a while will do it. Caulfield to take a shot. But Slav, I think, has finally gained the confidence
Yes.
necessary to be a star in this league. And the whole first line has exhibited that all series. They're carrying things with Hudson, now with Demidov doing sick plays, and with Goulet. Those really are the six. Emil Heineman doesn't get used enough to be thrown into this category at all, under 9 minutes tonight. But when he's on the ice, another young guy who's contributing very positively, I think.
Yeah, so Heineman, I'll throw this in now. We're going to talk about this once the season's over. If Patrick Laine is not on the team anymore, it's Heineman that's getting the wing spot. I'm convinced at this point. They're going to focus on getting a second line center. Obviously, Demidov is one of the wingers. I think it's Heineman getting that other spot. I think it's time.
Yeah, okay.
On the power play, Suzuki's to the bumper.
Yeah.
That to me has been a bit of the unlock there, because you're now seeing, and I talked about it last game, the Demidov Suzuki Slav triangle. It's every game now. There's one boom, boom, boom. There's going to be like 7 goals like that next year for sure. Also on the Caulfield goal, his celebration on it, and I know, look, the Canadiens are down 3-1 in the playoff series. Let us have some fun. His celebration on that 2-1 goal, I don't know, man. There was something about it. They know what they're doing right now. Where the average age of that first power play is 22 years old. They are, I think, very aware of oh man, we're all going to be here a while. We're just starting to get good.
Yeah. There's
something to it there where Caulfield was it's you're so excited because you scored a huge goal, but I think a lot of it too is oh man, this is power play 1 for 5 years, 10 years. They know it's something special, and slowly we're going to accumulate players, right? And they're there's Goulet, right? There's Emil Heineman, there's going to be Owen Beck, there's going to be Michael Hage, there's David Reinbacher, there's slowly, and then you're going to trade for guys just like Carrier will suddenly be a part of the team.
Yeah.
It's going to happen slowly. They don't have that team this year. There are very strong, significant weaknesses on this team, and we've known about that. And then you mix that with how young this team is, and you get the inconsistency of even the young guys. You're going to get a team that gets bounced probably in the first round. Series isn't over, but 3-1, looking tough.
Definitely looking tough. Got to win 3 straight against the team that can pull out a win against you in close games. That's been the story of the series so far, because all these games have been close for the vast majority of them. And the score of the last 2 games does not reflect that. The 6-3, the 5-2, both of those games were really, really tight. And that also comes with experience, being able to put the nail in the coffin or being able to come back in a big game. The Habs came back all year, all regular season, but coming back in a playoff game is harder. The pressure's higher, the intensity's higher, so that's a much harder thing to do. And again, the lessons being learned are worth all of the toughness that we're going to feel if it goes south. I still have hope. I never give up on a team until, especially my team, until they're actually out.
They've been in every game.
They've been in every game, exactly. And a few bounces go the other way. This is a 3-1 series, Montreal. They'd have to be significant bounces, and the referees would have to have not had their heads up their asses for most of the series. But it could be 3-1 Montreal right now. At the very least, it could be 2-2. So everybody hold your heads up high and admire the young guys and look to the future. And you're absolutely right to say that a few more little pieces put in, and this is a very different hockey team that looks a lot better in the postseason.
Yeah, and for now, and we'll wrap it, they're down 3-1. The odds are against them, but I trust Captain Nick. I trust the first line, the first wave of the power play, Goulet and Hudson. Matheson's going to leave everything out on the ice. So is, David Savard is going to leave absolutely everything out on the ice. The third line, they're going to battle. Whether they win or they lose Game 5, they're going to battle, and we'll be here to cover it. You can follow us on social media at HabsLandPod. If you like what you heard, feel free to leave a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It really helps us out. Until Wednesday night, go Habs.